Coming up on At the Heart of It with Nancy Brown.
No one else is going to take care of you. You have to take care of yourself. Like everything else, it's a choice. Carve out an hour for yourself. Stick to it, commit to that, because that's an appointment you're making with the most important person in your world.
In the entertainment industry, glitz and glamour often go hand in hand with challenge. My guest today knows that well. After spending a humble childhood in the Midwest, Jennie Garth skyrocketed to fame at a young age and with it, encountered an entirely new level of scrutiny. Throughout her life, Jennie has met challenges with grace and in the process mastered the art of positivity. That is the key, I believe, to breaking old habits and making fresh starts. Now Jennie is thriving in the public eye as a role model for health, wellness, and empowerment. Welcome to At the Heart of It. I'm Nancy Brown, CEO of the American Heart Association.
Fans will recognize her as Kelly Taylor, the teen icon on the 1990s smash hit Beverly Hills 90210, which lasted for 10 seasons and remains one of the most successful series ever produced. Before the Hollywood favorite was cemented in popular culture, Jennie Garth was a young girl from Urbana, Illinois, who knew she wanted to be an actress since the tender age of 15. Since then, she has built an enduring career as an actress and producer. Jennie has also appeared in non-scripted shows such as Dancing with the Stars and A Little Bit Country. In 2014, she showcased her design and decorating skills as she renovated a dated Hollywood Hills home in the Jennie Garth Project. Jennie has also starred in 19 television movies, including Left for Dead, the Ashley Reeves story, for which she was nominated Best Lead Actress in a TV Movie for the Canadian Screen Awards. 20 years after the iconic series that launched her, Jennie and longtime pal Tori Spelling co-created a 6-episode series, BH 90210, filled with the original cast and tons of nostalgia. The two also co-host a rewatch podcast called 90210MG, where she and Tori watch a new episode each week and recall memories together. Today, Jennie continues to add to her long list of credits, which include entrepreneur, designer, podcast host, and perhaps the most important title of all, mom.
Jennie, welcome. I'm so honored to have you with me here today, and I want to thank you for being such a loyal supporter of the American Heart Association and the American Stroke Association. You've made appearances at our Go Red for Women events, and recently, in a public service announcement, you paid tribute to your longtime friend, Luke Perry. Thank you for all of that. Well, before we start, I hope we can have a bit of fun. I like to play a game with my guests called Signature 5. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, acting, dancing, or renovating a home?
Oh, I love all of those things. I'm gonna go with renovating a home though, because you can just do that in your comfort. You know, you don't have to be all gussied up and makeup and hair. You can just renovate, and you can renovate a home anytime.
Golf or putt-putt?
Definitely golf. My husband is a golfer, so it's a great way for us to spend time together. And it's just so beautiful out there in nature, and it's so quiet, and I just love that time.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I'm
love
not
golfing.
great.
Well, you know, you don't have to be great to have fun.
Yeah.
As long as your husband doesn't get mad.
No.
Yeah, that's good.
No.
What's your favorite family meal?
Lately, it's been stir fry. We make a vegan Chinese chicken salad. Any time I can get all of my girls around the table is my favorite family meal.
Would you rather walk the beach or hike a mountain?
Can I do both?
You can. Not at the same time, probably, but
in California, you
Yeah, 'cause
can
you
walk
would.
on the beach and go for a hike in the mountains. Yeah. I want to do both.
What is your favorite genre? Historical fiction, romance, or self-help?
Wow, I love a good self-help book. I grew up with so many self-help books on my mom's bookshelf. It just felt like normal to me to always be improving yourself and learning about yourself and growing. I love historical romance fiction. Very Pride and Prejudice. I get lost in that.
Yeah, me too. I love a good book, you know, and just shutting the rest of the world out.
I know.
Yeah.
It's the best.
It is the best. Let me ask ask you about your early days in Hollywood because you seem to have had the quintessential experience, a hit show coupled with the media frenzy that goes along with it. Tell me about that amazing journey and what it was like to have overnight fame at such a young age.
It's been a wild ride for sure. And I didn't know what was happening then. I think I was maybe 18 when the show sort of started to take off. And there was a lot of adjustment there to that change in my lifestyle from just, being normal me and going about my business. And I had no guidebook, no directions on how to live that life because my parents are both educators and nobody in my family has ever been in the entertainment industry. So I really had to sort of learn as I went. One of my first jobs was I played Barbara Eden's daughter and she played my mother. And I got to sit and watch her on set. And she was such a great example of professionalism and kindness. And she taught me so much. So I attribute a lot of, the way I like to present myself to her.
Role models are so important, I think, in every aspect of our lives, and you certainly have been a role model to so many people. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Let's step back a bit further and share with us what was life like as Jennie before the world fell in love with Kelly Taylor.
I grew up on a farm in Midwest, in Illinois, in the country, way in the country. And I was just a kid riding my pink dirt bike around, the farm and picking flowers and playing with animals and just so normal. I had such an idyllic, really lucky childhood. And I'm very close to my parents and I have half siblings on both sides. And it was just one big happy family. Then my dad got sick and we moved from the Midwest to Arizona. That was during my teen years.
Yeah. Those very important formative years.
That was rough.
Yeah.
And then I fell into this world and it's just all been such a journey. And when you look back, you think, wow, look where I've come, how I've survived all those things and learned all those things from my life. But it's just a really normal, I think I come from pretty normal stock.
Good Midwestern background and values. When did you first know you wanted to act? Like, what was there a moment that you thought, I think I want to do this?
No. There never was. I was dancing. My parents were both teachers and I thought, I love teaching people things. And so I thought I would be a dance teacher. And then I stumbled into a pageant where I thought I was there showcasing my dancing talents and maybe getting a college scholarship or something. And that's where I was discovered by my manager, who is still my manager to this day. He invited me to come out and start auditioning. And so I did. And it's just, here I am from that.
Wow, that's incredible. And you mentioned your father was ill, and I know that he had heart disease, and he's had his first heart attack at age 37. What was that like as a young person, seeing your father go through that challenge?
It was probably really hard, because my dad was my hero. I was a daddy's girl. I'm born on his birthday. I went from, seeing him do things on the farm while he was a teacher during the day, and on the weekends he would come and be a farmer. And, we would have so much fun, and he was so active and strong, and just seeing him go through that transition was really devastating because that was, in the 80s that he had his first open heart surgery. And it was much, much different then.
Very different.
Yeah, it was a much more traumatic procedure, operation. And he had a quadruple bypass. And I can remember when they let me see him through the ICU glass for the first time. And I was just like, so shocked by what I was seeing because he was very swollen and yellow and
hooked up to all the
machines.
Yes.
And I'll never forget, they allowed me to go in and kiss his hand. And then the nurse drew a circle around where I had kissed it so even though I wouldn't be there when he woke up, they would be able to say that's where Jennie
Oh.
Jennie was here.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that is so touching.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's so true. The advances in treating people that
Right.
need bypass surgery or have other forms of cardiovascular disease have been remarkable in the
know.
past many decades. And it must have been just as traumatic when
Yeah.
your dad got home and had to.
It changed
Yeah.
our lives forever.
Yeah.
It changed the energy in the home. It changed everything. And like I said, we moved from the Midwest to Arizona for my dad's health, for
Yes.
a drier climate,
Right.
because the harsh winters in the Midwest were just too much for him.
Yes.
And it was just really, not a great time. And I look back and think, wow, that was a lot.
This background with your father is one of the reasons you've been such an amazing volunteer for the American Heart Association. Tell us about your motivation to be such a key champion for our cause. I mean, look at those hearts today, you
I'm
know,
repping.
and your red shoes.
When you see your dad go through something like that, it changes you. And when I turned, I think it was 32, I decided I'm going to be proactive and I'm going to go find a cardiologist and make sure that I'm tip top,
Yes.
I wanted to have confirmation
Yes.
that I was the exception to the family genetic, situation. And I think it was when I started first working with the American Heart Association that I just said, I want to be a voice for this. And as I've gotten more involved, it's become more of a voice for women. And,
Right.
and that makes me just love it so much more. Learning so much about that it's the number one killer of women over all the cancers. And I think that sometimes people just don't think that it's a killer. And just being able to spread the message and help people become aware of their risks and, teaching them how to live a better, healthier lifestyle, it gives me so much joy that at least there's something amazing that has come out of, my journey with heart health.
As a spokesperson for the American Heart Association, especially for women, you're a mentor probably in ways you'll never even understand for people that have heard your message and heard you speak about the importance of advocating for your own health. If you had to give these women a message directly, what would you say about being an advocate for yourself?
I would say it's a necessity. No one else is going to take care of you. You have to take care of yourself. And that might sound a little harsh, but it's a reality. I so enjoy spreading that message to women because as women, we take care of everybody else.
Right.
And that's just the way we're made. And it's very, very hard to stop taking care of other people and turn it around and look at yourself. It almost feels uncomfortable for some people to focus on themselves. So along with my messaging with the American Heart Association and trying to educate people about their risks, I also am spreading, just the message of women choosing themselves, like letting yourself choose yourself and put yourself first sometimes, and the importance of that.
It's probably the best advice all women could hear, and maybe that goes back to some of the self-help books your mother had around when you were growing up.
Inevitably.
Yeah. So when you think about the health journey you've been on with your family, how has that impacted how you structure your routines around health and wellness? And do you have any tips for us that you'd like to share?
I think if I had to give tips, it would be exercise, walking.
Right.
Getting up, moving your body a little
Golfing,
bit.
yes,
Golfing,
yeah.
Anything. It's so important, especially as we age, to stay fit and agile and just keep moving. And, I really do live a healthy life. I don't just talk the talk, I really walk the walk. And I walk it with my girls too. And I teach them about taking care of themselves. And our household is very healthy. Those are the things that I do.
When we think about health, we often talk about the fact that the body and the head are connected. And I know that with your girls especially, you've, because you were in the spotlight so much yourself as a younger person, how are you helping to make sure that social media isn't overtaking the way they think about their life, which I know must be really challenging as a mom?
It is rough. You just have to continually encourage them to put themselves first. and to think for themselves and to listen to themselves, because there are so many external voices nowadays that, I mean, it's bad enough, the external voices that I experience just in my own head, but these kids today just have it coming at them from every angle. So it is even more important to just be a real hands-on, like a close parent, I think. And I do that with my girls. It just having that bond with them and being able to lead by example. And I think they see that, and there's a real authenticity in that, and they buy it more than what they're buying on the social media, and it makes a difference.
I remember a scene in 90210. Your character was caught in a love triangle, and instead of choosing Dylan or Brandon, your character said, "I choose me." That was a really pivotal moment, because that's not how people thought about things at that time. Tell us about that moment, how that felt as you were playing out that part, how that came about to be part of the scripting.
Well, it was written by my dear friend Jessica Klein, and at the time, I didn't really get it. It was a weird thing to say at that moment in that scene, and then we really talked it through, and she, made me understand. And I think now, looking back, it has such a deeper meaning than I ever knew. And it's become sort of my life's mission. Let yourself choose yourself. Sometimes you embrace your past in order to move forward. And I really feel this strong connection to that very scene and women's connection with that statement that Kelly made.
Yes.
And it was like the first time, I think, that young girls were given the chance to not have to choose outside of themselves. She was, ahead of her time.
How did the fans react back then? Do you have any recollection of that?
They loved it back then, but I hear about it more now, especially as my fans have grown up with me and are around my age.
Yeah.
And they come to me and they tell me the impact that scene, that storyline had on them, and how it sort of resurrected this feeling, of ownership of their own choices in life.
What would the 16-year-old Jennie say about how your life has evolved since landing in Hollywood and becoming such a prominent actor?
I think that I'm doing my best to make her proud. I think I talk a lot about that with other women too, about looking inside and going into that young girl inside of all of us, talking to her and having that dialogue and letting her say, "I'm so proud of you, and look at what you're doing, and maybe it's hard right now, but everything's going to work out," and really just staying in touch with the younger person that resides in me, because I feel the same. I feel like her still on the inside.
So much happens in life, but at the end of the day, you still are who you've always been, and I think once we realize that as people, there's a calming effect that comes with that.
Comforting.
It is comforting. It really is. So what's next for you? Do you have any new projects you want to share with us today?
Oh my goodness, 2024 is going to be a great year for me. I'm so excited about it. I have a new podcast coming out, which is very exciting, on iHeartRadio, and it's called the I Choose Me podcast. And we're going to be talking all about the choices in life. I have another drop of BFF collection coming out, which is beautiful Christmas decor. It's just so pretty, and I'm very excited about that.
Amazing.
With my friend Tori Spelling. So that's a couple of the things that I have going.
Wonderful. Well, that's exciting. Tell me about how, when you think about the word positivity, which is when I think about you, that's what I think of. You're such a positive force of nature. Everything in your life, you find the positive. What advice do you have for people who maybe don't see the world in such a positive way, but who really want to?
I mean, it's a choice. It's like everything else. It's a choice. You can either go through life worrying and feeling guilty, or succumbing to the pressures, or you can choose to be happy and to be healthy every day, every morning. It's a choice.
If you had another piece of advice to give women on health and well-being, fitness, food related, do you have any good tips that you'd like to share?
Everybody already is kind of focusing on the importance of sleep, but when I don't get enough sleep, I'm just not good for anything. Sleep and staying active. I really feel like when you stop moving, you're going to stop living. Like you got to keep moving and stay active. So for me, it's about staying fit, going on hikes, going on walks, working out with the trainer, going to the gym, doing the videos or whatever it is that you do. But I say carve out an hour for yourself 3 times a week and put it on your calendar. And stick to it, commit to that, because that's an appointment you're making with yourself, the most important person in your world.
Really great advice. The putting it on the calendar really matters. I think that's where a lot of people fall down because they intend to do it.
Right.
And other things, they're not putting themselves first, as you said earlier.
Many times I've put on my workout clothes in the morning and never got around to
Right, you're still wearing them at 11 o'clock at night.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you mentioned 2 things that are part of what we call life's essential 8, the 8 health factors and health behaviors for good heart health. Sleep and exercise are 2 of those 8. And the power of sleep really matters. And it's great to see how that's taking off, because people used to think lack of sleep was a badge of honor. And now we actually know it's really bad for your heart and your brain to not get enough sleep.
That's right.
Yeah.
You need to regenerate.
Absolutely. Well, Jennie, thank you so much for spending time today. It's just been a delight to talk to you. Thank you again for being such an amazing champion for health and well-being and the power of positivity. All of us at the American Heart Association and the American Stroke Association, thank you so much.
You're so welcome. I'm very, very happy to be a part of it.
Like Jennie, I firmly believe in the power of positivity to improve well-being. It's part of that critical connection between your head and your heart. How do you stay positive in the face of challenges? What are your strategies? I would love to hear from you, so comment below, hit subscribe, and join me here next time for more inspiring conversations. From my heart to yours, thank you for watching.